we were just talking about this potentially with Senator Blumenthal. Now, Paul Manafort has indeed just been indicted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, according to court documents provided to NBC News by DA Cy Vance's office in Manhattan. Joining me now is NBC's Tom Winter. Tom, what does this case involve?
Andrea, this case involves, and the indictment being unsealed just moments ago, a Manhattan grand jury has indicted Paul Manafort on 16 counts tied to the real estate mortgage fraud and conspiracy surrounding that. We're still piecing ourselves or going through the indictment and kind of piecing through it, if you will. But Cy Vance's office, who's the district attorney here in New York, and has purview over Manafort's properties here in New York and some of his real estate transactions. This investigation had been in the works. Yes,
Tom, let me just interrupt you for just a moment, because Kevin Downing, the Manafort defense lawyer, has just come to the microphone. Let's listen in.
Conceded that there was absolutely no evidence of any Russian collusion in this case. So that makes two courts have ruled no evidence of any collusion with any Russian.
That's not what she
Part
said.
number two. Very sad.
That's not what she said.
Very sad
That's not what
day
she said.
for such a callous, harsh sentence that is totally unnecessary. Much like this.
You guys are liars now. You're not lawyers. You're liars.
You're lying. That's not what she said.
Well, as you can see, mayhem outside the federal courthouse. Protesters, one sign reflecting Vladimir Putin. You saw the shouts of liar, liar. Harry Litman is with me here. We just were talking to Senator Blumenthal about whether local prosecutors could come in behind the feds, and with a pardon being dangled, we all are suggesting from some of these comments. Here, Kevin Downing came out and was again misstating what the judge said. As far as I could tell, by saying that there was a decision that there was no collusion, what she was saying that it was a non sequitur. It had nothing to do with that case, and she actually gave his client a tongue lashing in that court. In any case, now the Manhattan DA, Cy Vance, according to Tom Winter, has come up with some local charges that are not subject to any kind of presidential pardon.
That's exactly right, and this is huge. Downing comes out because he thinks it's all over now. We've run the gauntlet with Judge Jackson. The system is done with us. I can come back with my no collusion mantra. What this shows, there's a broader system here, and this is a big portent, not just for Manafort, but for Stone and anyone else. You have we've been talking so much and focused on the base for Trump, but you have a really revved up constituency in other places who want to see justice done. And this is going to be calamitous for Manafort. It seems likely that he, in fact, will never be able to get out of jail during his lifetime. But just in general, the pushback from the system as a whole, state and federal, to this no collusion mantra and the general lies. There's a whole nother player in town. It's the states and the DAs, and they'll have something to say when the Manaforts of this world want to say, no collusion, it's all over.
Glenn Kirshner, who's still outside the courthouse, we saw a bit of what happened there when Kevin Downing came and tried to make basically a political, not a legal argument in defense of his client. But as Harry Litman has just said, there are other jurisdictions here. And unfortunately for Donald Trump or for Manafort or some of these others, potentially some of the people in the Trump organization, the Manhattan DA is not someone subject to White House control.
Sure. And if Paul Manafort ends up being convicted in connection with New York charges or charges in other jurisdictions other than federal jurisdictions, a pardon will do Paul Manafort no good. So, you know, and you have to wonder what would prompt somebody to continue to say that a judge or courts, whether a Virginia court or a D.C. court, has said anything about there being no collusion. I mean, we all just sat in the courtroom and heard Judge Jackson's pointed comments about the fact that this case says nothing about collusion and that the special counsel's investigation is ongoing. So, you know, we'll have to see what other statements are given to the media by the defense team.
And Tom Winter, anything else that you are deriving from this grand jury indictment now that you have it all in full?
Sure.
I know you're just getting it as as we're hearing it from you.
Sure, of course. So what we know is this. First off, 8 counts of falsifying business records, 3 counts of conspiracy tied to that, 4 counts of residential real estate fraud, and 1 count of scheme to defraud in the first degree that's tied to those business records. So essentially what you have here, Andrea, is over a 2-year period, 2015 and 2016, the Manhattan DA's office picking up on a lot of things that were presented at Paul Manafort's trial and were part of public exhibits that were found and developed as a result of search warrants and investigative efforts by the special counsel's office and obviously their own investigative efforts at the Manhattan District Attorney's office. In addition to that, these surround properties and business transactions that we reported prior to any Manafort indictment involving several of his properties in New York State, in the city of New York. In addition to that, Andrea, some things such as his statements regarding season tickets to the New York Yankees and statements that were provided to American Express. Some of those statements and some of those circumstances that we heard about at trial where he said that he had some financial difficulties trying to pay down his New York Yankee season tickets in 2016, that documents and some things associated around that are part of the charges here today. We're not going to hear from the Manhattan District Attorney, Cy Vance. They're not going to hold a press conference today. That's according to their communications director, Andrea. But the indictment pretty much speaks for itself and covers a significant amount of events that we have discussed on air. The significance, of course, is what you've been discussing over the last 5 or 10 minutes, which is that this is impervious to any sort of pardon power that the president could take advantage of with respect to Paul Manafort. So Paul Manafort's legal troubles, the chapters being closed today on the federal end of things, but on the state end of things, chapters are being opened. Obviously, it's far too soon to get a sense from Manafort's side what they think of these charges. I would add, though, Andrea, that many of the events and the instances and some of the fraud that is described in this indictment that was just unsealed are all things that Paul Manafort has either pleaded guilty to or has admitted his guilt to. So as far as whether or not there's going to be any sort of a legal fight here, it's going to be pretty difficult for him. And a lot of those statements, Glenn and Harry can attest to this, that his statements and admissions of guilt as it relates to these charges can come in the state trial. Those are statements that Paul Manafort has made. I believe that that's how it's going to go. So this is a really solid case, it appears, for the Manhattan District Attorney, Cy Vance.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.